Good afternoon and welcome, everybody. This would be the Jeff Cameron Show right here on 97 on ESPN Radio. Thanks for tuning to it. I'm Jeff, that's Tom. We're online at ESPNTallahassee.com. That's where you go to listen live via the streaming free always. You miss things, get caught up. We'll post all 3 hours. In this case, 1 full hour of the Jeff Cameron Show, 2 hours of Seminole headlines today upon the conclusion of the shows on iTunes and in our own audio vault, also on the app, the WTSM app. I'm hiccuping as we start the show. No, get it together. You can email us if you like. It's jcs@979espnradio.com. And you can watch us on YouTube. Hey, YouTubers, I'm wearing a Buccaneers shirt today. And, you can see that on YouTube.
I'm sorry, Jeff. That's illegal motion. No hiccuping through the intro.
That's true.
It's a 3-second penalty. We will not restart the show, though.
Thank you. Maybe this is like a practice, and we're trying to get it right, and you're just warning me. In the game situation, Cameron, if you hiccup while live on the air doing the program, we got problems. You'll be penalized. We can't do a show with you hiccuping. Man, did I crack up yesterday. So I was leaving. I was thinking about the show we did, and I had to go to a certain grocery store that I frequent. One of these days, they'll come on board and be some friend of the program, as they ought to be.
When they're struggling, no doubt, because everything gets delivered to your home.
That's right. And so they, I go over there, the honey to-do list, right? That was on the so I walk out to the car. Hey, can you stop and get this, and this? And, I've said this before, Tom. I get into my own little world there when I'm at this particular store. I like grocery shopping. I do. It's escapism for me. I rather enjoy it. A lot of people say, hey, can you stop and get this? And their wives say that to them. They go, damn it. I just want to get home. You got me stopped. Not me. I'm like, all right. Yeah, I'll stop. It's not that I don't want to see my wife. It's not that I don't want to see my kids. But I like sort of the mindless going through the aisles. You got me. I go, that looks good. I'm not going to get it, but I'll try that cereal next time. And then I go over to so anyhow, point is, I had time to kind of reflect and think about the show we did. And I always do that. I think about the things that we got wrong, things we got right, things I wish we had done better, things we did well, all that stuff, right? And then it occurred to me that I had just heard a report that perhaps North Carolina, now they later did this, was going to hire Mac Brown. And I thought, man, how ridiculous. Imagine if that were your school. Imagine that was your squad. There you are. You fire Larry Fedora, and if you're a Carolina fan, you go, all right, thank God. Get this dumbass out of here. Had that nice little window, but Larry, you got to go. Plus, you've gone cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs every year at the ACC meetings. And then you're all excited about the possibility. And they tell you Mac Brown. Okay. Woo. And I felt immediately better. That there is another level of just disconnect, crazy, like somebody, like officials, people who are in well-paid positions, filled with responsibility and successes in their life, in business, or wherever else it's been, academia, got in a room and said, we should go after Mac Brown. And nobody went, are you insane, Ted? Tell me you're joking or you're fired.
Well, I got into the bourbon after our latest loss, and I actually called Mac, and we're kind of I guess, in advanced negotiations. He didn't realize I was slurring my words, but he's going to be here.
He'll be here.
We didn't sign anything, but, I mean, could you at least sit down with him for me, please?
Oh,
I'm
my
totally
God.
sorry. Won't happen again, but you can understand why I was in a weird place, weird frame of mind.
I mean, can you just imagine that? Sell that old man. Oh, my goodness gracious. Please, Mac Brown. Who, if we forgot the way that it ended in Texas, was a mess. And anyhow, I cracked up. I was, listen, I was here watching Florida State dominate when Mac Brown did such good work at North Carolina. Probably the best coaching job he ever did anywhere was at North Carolina. He made them relevant.
That's how he got the Texas gig.
Yeah, he made them very relevant. They were once ranked number 2 in the country before we beat their ass and ended all that nonsense. And I can still remember the Dre Bly situation, Peter Warwick, and all that stuff. And I remember thinking that at that time, you know, it was impressive. You could talk about Mac Brown in a light that was flattering. And then, you know, he wins 2 Big 12 titles in 16 years. 2 at Texas. And I thought, oh, thanks for the 2 titles in Texas. That's ridiculous. They were just perennial underachievers. And so it made me laugh. And then just now, if you just listen to him talk when he's on television, the absurdities that come out of that man's mouth, and you think, that's my guy. There it is. He's going to get us going in the right direction.
I need him. I have to have him.
That guy. Listen now, by all accounts, he's a super nice guy. I don't have anything personally against it. It may sound like it.
He's the same age as Nick Saban, and they carry themselves completely differently. Mm-hmm. I remind that every time we talk about Mac Brown. They are peers. Total peers.
Not in ability, but in age.
Went to grade school at the same time, graduated high school at the same time.
Mm-hmm. So there's that. And I was laughing about that, and then I was laughing at the Jaguars. And it's not like I don't have room to laugh at my own Bucks, but I was laughing at the Jags because now Coughlin's upset that everybody's like, hey, man, why'd you give Blake Bortles all the money? He kind of sucks. And everybody in the free world saw it but you, and you gave him the money. Sure, the locker room loved that. Oh, Blake Bortles is going to get the money, is he? All right. And now they've had to go back on it, and they're a disaster, and the window is whoosh. Good luck with that. Think about the guys they could have had.
Yeah, Kirk Cousins would have done fine for them.
Case Keenum, any number of guys would have done just fine. Exactly right. That's a toughie. So I guess it was a good way to kind of get out of my own head here and thinking about our problems, Florida State's 5-7 season and the frustrations that stem from that, and then look around at some of the other, nightmares and realize, okay.
Well, you see the beans in the aisle, and you're like, oh.
Yeah, look at that.
Pinto beans.
I should get some. They say they're good for you, good source of protein. I should get these beans. I never do. It's interesting you bring up beans. Every time I'm in that aisle, I look at a lot of different beans, and I think I should eat more beans. That's what they tell you. The beans are good for you.
That's what Dave Ramsey tells you. Beans and rice, rice and beans, until you can make ends meet.
But I look at the beans, and I'm like, all right. And then I go, yep, and I keep on keeping on. The beans can be in something. They can't be the thing. Right? That's
my favorite Southern side dish, man. A little barbecue baked beans.
Delicious.
Oh, my God.
Of course, you love the taste of barbecue anything.
Yes.
So
this is true.
It's not surprising that is your favorite. I also thought about, as I got home last night, was, all right, I'm going to sit down and watch a little Monday Night Football. And it occurs to me, just because I love to needle you about this, but you should have a new favorite quarterback. Your boy here, Marcus Mariota, is the new Alex Smith. He's your guy. Deekity, deekity, deekity. High completion percentage. Deekity, deekity, deekity. He's just never going to – he's risk averse. He's never going to –
Matthew, please make a note that we need to isolate the deekity, deekity, deekity.
That's him. Every play, deekity, deekity, deekity. They can't stretch the field. Teams adjust. They get blown out.
The next time you see an infant do that, he's going to light up the room with his laughter.
Oh, man. I'm telling you. Yeah, I watched that last night. But
by that 61-yard bomb he threw, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that one.
The 6-yard button hook.
Diggity, diggity, diggity.
And the honey badger ran ran clear away.
Oh, buddy. I cracked up with that, too. But I will say this.
It was a fun game, though.
I had it wrong on the Houston Texans. They skirted by. They survived their first 6 games of the year. They didn't look good in any of them. And since then, they've been really good. Now they're interesting. I will say, for as angry as I get at the National Football League, this is shaping up to be a wild affair at the end. You got 6 teams with either 5 or 6 wins in the AFC right now. Same in the NFC.
Mess.
It's a nightmare. I mean, teams you would have never thought are still in the conversation, legitimately in the conversation. Cleveland is in the conversation, right? I mean, there's teams. Denver is in the conversation. And if you start looking at schedules, you realize some of these teams that are, what you wouldn't consider to be good enough to make the playoffs have the schedule to make the playoffs. They're in it.
Well, and some have brutal schedules, too. In fact, I was doing that today, sir. I looked at the schedule week to week through the end of the season.
Doesn't Minnesota have a brutal schedule?
Oh, Minnesota's schedule's crazy.
On the road at New England.
They're playing New England, Seattle.
Yeah, they got problems.
The Bears in Week 17.
Chicago's going to win.
That's why they had to win this past weekend against Green Bay to have any prayer at all.
Just to make the playoffs, right? Because you got so many rough games.
They played Dallas, too. But
who's playing really well.
There is a de facto elimination game this weekend, and that is Broncos-Bengals. Now, the Bengals are trending so badly in the negative direction that you would think Denver wins that game, but still the pressure's on Denver to go in Cincinnati and not blow it.
But Denver has the easiest schedule of the bunch. Look at their schedule moving forward. They legitimately, that game late in the year against the Chargers, I think it is, could be the one that decides everything. And the Chargers may not be playing for anything at that point.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, because they're on such a good pace. And you know, it might be settled that Kansas City wins the division and the Chargers have a home or actually they wouldn't get a home playoff game, would they?
Oh, the Chargers are
but they would have the number 5 seed at that point also.
New England is 8-3. They're probably going to go 12-4. Pittsburgh, they're going to get hurt by that tie. But, you know, Baltimore.
Well, who's going to run them down? Baltimore? I mean, in terms of seeding, maybe.
Seeding. Well, that's going to matter. Yeah, but look all of a sudden now, like, for example, how good is that going to be if Indianapolis keeps playing the way? They've won 5 straight. Houston's won 8 straight.
Okay, so Minnesota's schedule it has a nice little packet in the middle there, but it's at New England. Then they got to come home and go to Seattle. So they come back to practice, and then they just go to the other coast. I mean, that's ridiculous. Then it's the Dolphins at home, then the Lions on the road, doable, and then the Bears in Minnesota to close out the season. So 3 of their final 5 games are absolutely brutal. And while they would be a team you wouldn't want to face in the playoffs, they may not get there because the schedule's too difficult.
No, they may not. I think Dallas is going to win the East, and then I think the Chicago Bears are going to win the North. And by the way, speaking of not getting there, Green Bay is not going to get there. New Orleans is 10-1, and they're obviously going to get there. You know who's screwing up? That Carolina team, for us, no matter how dynamic we think they are, but that's 3 straight losses. They've got some bizarre decisions mixed in there.
No, you got to fire Ron. This is it. If they don't make it this year, that's
it. They're too good, right?
They're too loaded on offense. And that offense is so much fun. Samuel plus McCaffrey, my God, the elements they have in that thing.
Well, and then now Seattle's in the conversation. That was a great win for them.
The Rams, I think, have a brutal schedule. I was looking at that today.
Yeah, they're probably so dynamic. Let's look at their schedule, in fact, at another time, because that's probably not what our people want to hear. But I am thinking about that.
Well, 2 Monday nights from now, they play at Soldier Field. That's interesting.
It's a fun game.
Styles make fights, and it'll be cold.
Oh, it'll be freezing. It's awesome. I can't wait. Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff going on right now in the NFL. And even weird intrigue about what's happening in Tampa Bay. Winston played his best game of the year. He's been good for 6 straight quarters. And even made decisions in terms of checking down, running at the right time. He looked controlled. I love his demeanor right now. He's very low key.
Well, I think the first 2 quarters he played largely well. Got a little lucky.
There was one terrible throw,
and then he had the fumble, and it goes forward into the end zone. You get a break there.
Yeah, so I can live with that.
You spare yourself a couple turnovers, but there was no luck necessary this past weekend.
Oh no, he was great, and he was in the other 4 touchdown drives in that other game. He was very good. So he gets, you know.
Oh, I'm saying he was more good than bad, but there was a little luck there.
Oh yeah,
didn't need any this past game.
Well, it's just a matter of being willing to check down if it's there. He wouldn't check down here, which I was fine with because we had playmakers down the field and he was making play and the yards per attempt and all that in Tallahassee was something special. NCAA record setting even, and that was fine.
Yeah, but Devonta's yards from scrimmage would have been massive.
Oh, insane.
If he cared to even 20% of the time.
But here, making good decisions to keep the ball, run it, be effective, get down, get your 6 yards, get your 12 yards, get your 15 yards, get whatever you're going to get down. The willingness to not make the forced play, right? Just understand you can live to fight another day. Now, I get it with that defense. You don't want to do that typically. You got to make plays, but not against San Francisco. Just get what you're going to get. You're going to be all right.
Well, he's still throwing for 3 bills. I mean,
3 bills, 2 touchdowns, no turnovers. That's every week. I will say it's going to be interesting because the way we judge all quarterbacks moving forward, all the rookies coming in this next year, the crop that just came in, any of the young guys, and that includes Winston and Mariota. They're on a different scale now, man, because it's so easy to throw for 375 yards in a game anymore, and it's easy to have a quarterback rating of over 100. It's easy to complete 70% of your passes each week. I mean, look around the league at the amount of people whose numbers would have been considered MVP-like numbers 10 years ago.
Andrew Luck has thrown for over 30 touchdowns this season, and it's not a headline. I mean, like, his resurgence may be, but the touchdown total isn't.
Great.
If you have 30 touchdowns before December, in most other seasons in the history of the league, people are just bowing at your feet.
Phillip Rivers had one incomplete pass, is 37 years old, and is completing like 80-something% of his passes, and he's like, yeah, let's have a good year. It's absurd. Jeff Cameron Show, 97.9 ESPN Radio.
Hey, it's Golick and Wingo, and we're giving you and a friend the ultimate college football experience at the 2019 College Football Playoff National Championship Game.
We're taking care of airfare, hotel, tickets, donuts.
Are donuts really included?
Nah, but it sounds pretty good, doesn't it?
The Golick and Wingo College Football Playoff Contest. Earn your shot to attend the 2019 College Football Playoff National Championship presented by AT&T. Tune in to Golick and Wingo from now through December 5th for your chance to win. No purchase necessary. For official contest rules, go to ESPNRadio.com.
Our descent will arrive in TLH shortly.
Oh, I'm so happy to be home.
Once we land, you can take off again with savings from the City of Tallahassee.
What do you mean?
The City of Tallahassee offers rebates for up to $300 in savings when you purchase energy-efficient appliances.
Wow, that would be a huge help.
The city also offers free energy audits.
What's an energy audit?
It's when an energy auditor comes to your home at the time that's convenient for you, examines your structure, and checks your energy and water systems. Then, they recommend changes that could save you energy, water, and money. The city also offers free ceiling insulation grants for qualifying customers.
Man, the city sure offers a lot of ways to save money. Once we land, I will check out all of the products and services the city has to offer. This makes me proud to call Tallahassee home.
Thank you for flying with us today. Don't forget that you can take off with savings with the City of Tallahassee. From rebates for Energy Star appliances to insulation grants. You can save energy, water, and money. Visit talgov.com for more information.
97.9 ESPN Radio congratulates the Chairs Eagles Pop Warner football team on making the Pop Warner Super Bowl. Set to start December 2nd at Disney's Wide World of Sports in Orlando. The Eagles could use your help. With on-field success comes expenses for travel and meals for additional games. If you can offer support, head to 97.9 ESPN Radio's Facebook page or check out at 979 ESPN Radio's pinned tweet, which includes a link to a GoFundMe campaign for the Eagles. Any help is greatly appreciated. And best of luck to the Chairs Eagles in Orlando.
Credit products are made by WebBank. Rates and terms vary based on credit history. Amazon is not a sponsor of this promotion. Other restrictions apply. See website for details.
How did I get into credit card debt? A trip to the emergency room.
Car repairs.
Moving expenses.
There's a million ways to get into credit card debt, but one sure way to start getting out: Avant. Avant offers access to online unsecured loans from $2,000 to $35,000 at competitive rates and no extra charges for paying back early. Over 500,000 customers have experienced the convenience of a loan through Avant. No wonder Avant has an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau. The application takes minutes, and if approved by 4:30 p.m. Central Time Monday through Friday, funds are deposited as soon as the next business day. And now Avant will also give you a $50 Amazon.com gift card after your first payment is made on time. To check your loan options and to get this special radio offer, go to Avant.com today and enter promo code 4949 when applying. That's AVANT.com, promo code 4949. Avant.com, code 4949.
This is Chris Kraft with news that is sure to change the car buying landscape in North Florida. Our brother Peter and I are now the proud new owners of the Infiniti dealership in Tallahassee, the all-new Kraft Infiniti. As Mercedes-Benz dealers for over 25 years early in our careers, we know how to sell and service Highline vehicles the right way. At Kraft Infiniti, our mission statement is simple: to provide our customers with a car buying experience that is unsurpassed in value, consideration for your time, and pure enjoyment. Finally, the Highline experience you deserve, and it's from the Kraft brothers. Infiniti is much more than a brand name. It's a lifestyle and it's a statement. And at Kraft Infiniti, Peter and I will go beyond your expectations in providing the best sales and service experience in Tallahassee. So come see us at the all-new Kraft Infiniti, beyond your expectations, and brought to you by the Kraft brothers. Kraft Infiniti, 3355 Capitol Circle Northeast, conveniently located between Home Depot and the I-10 flyover. Call 297-1488 or visit us on the web at craftinfinity.com.
With this job, having two hands won't cut it, which is why I thank the stars I have a third. Grainger. When my two hands are full, I fully rely on Grainger. They're America's #1 source for industrial-grade supplies. So, whether I'm fixing a furnace or fastening a faucet, Grainger hands me what I need when I need it, which makes me a pretty lucky guy. Because when it comes to needing an extra hand, Grainger's got your back. Call or click Grainger.com to see for yourself. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
The Jeff Cameron Show is brought to you by Cornerstone Tool and Fastener. Big store pricing with local service. Online at ctf.nu.
Jeff Cameron Show, 97.9 ESPN Radio. You had to say today, over under 6.5 wins next year. Remember at the beginning of last year, beginning of this year, I should say, the offseason, we talked a lot about win totals when they came out. We all thought the over was an easy one. Obviously, Vegas cleaned up on those that took the over with Florida State.
Yeah, Vegas had the last laugh there.
Yeah, they said it, I think it's 7.5, and we were like aghast. So they won't do that again, right? They'll probably set it. The schedule's easier next year. You do begin the season with Boise State. You know what's fascinating is you can make an argument that that is a critical game. Good thing we're playing over in Jacksonville. Jeez. Anyhow, you better win that game. I mean, I'm just talking about the goodwill that's gone and all that stuff. I mean, you know, obviously it would be a disaster to enter the season and lose to Boise State in Jacksonville.
If we're losing that one, then it's better that it's in Jacksonville, than it is in Tallahassee. Bit of a road show.
But, yeah, I mean, my goodness gracious. So you got to find a way to win that one. But I know nobody wants to talk about games that are going to be played a year from now, but I just thought about the win total and how we were all sure that it was going to go over on the 7.5. Even the more down-to-earth, realistic predictions. There were times in the offseason where I said, look, 8-9 seems about right to me. It's still over 7.5. And obviously we didn't come close with the 5 wins. And if you think about who we beat, really nobody who's any good at all, except for Wake. Wake's going to a bowl. But, you don't have much, right? You get the BC game.
BC.
Yeah, BC. That's it. Who just lost again? We devastated BC. That's it. They lost to us twice, Tom, as they say. But I would tell you that
I'm worried about the Syracuse game down here in Tallahassee next year, buddy.
Sure. Well, you go ahead and do the reverse, right? You got Syracuse here next year. You get Louisville here. That helps. They're not any good. But they'll have a new coach. You get Miami here. You get NC State here, and then you get
Finley will be gone, right? So
yeah,
that's good.
Yeah, the schedule is relatively easy next year.
You get BC up there, but they lose their offensive line, which is nice.
It is nice. Yeah. Well, so the point would be the schedule is much easier than it was a season ago. But if you were to start the year disastrously and lose to Boise State.
Well, I think my over-under on 6.5 is dependent upon
on that game.
Over-under new offensive linemen, 3.5.
Well, it's what you're going to be paying the closest amount of attention to. Who on your current roster that maybe didn't play? The Austin kid. Well, there's 2 of them, right? Can they play? Can they play?
Yeah, the 2 Christians.
Christian. I said Austin. Yeah. I always think of Christian, Austin, same kid.
I guess.
No, they're just names that annoy me. Sorry. I'm always like, get on your scooter, Austin. But okay, so that said, Christian and the other Christian kid,
Meadows and Armstrong.
Can they play?
Hell of a question. One would think if they showed some flashes this year, they might have gotten some play down the stretch, right?
I mean, they got to give those kids horse steroids. We got to do something. I mean, the kinds of things that...
One of them was hurt, but yeah.
Really,
I don't know which one yet.
Just very unsavory. We got to go all in. Just everything you got here. Kid, you're doing something for the greater good here.
So by the time we got to Notre Dame, do you think Corey Martinez was laughing at the fact that he left, or he was pissed that he left? He would have gotten all kinds of playing time.
No, but didn't he just leave because he didn't want to play football anymore?
That's correct.
No,
yeah.
then he didn't care. I mean, I think he didn't have a lack of love for Florida State. I think he lost the enthusiasm to play football. And as somebody who had that happen to him, I know what that's like. I mean, football is hard, and there is a lot going on. And if you suffer some injuries, and you're battling back, and in his case, look, he probably didn't see an NFL future. Look, I was never good enough to be like a Corey Martinez who could go to a Florida State. But when I got hurt, I'm sitting there asking myself all these questions like, you're not going to the NFL. You're in East Tennessee. What are you doing? This is ridiculous. And if you lose even a little bit of passion, you really can't play that sport because I imagine the exact same thing is true of hockey. You can't just skate around. I mean, it's hard, right? You got some damn effort going to you.
Skating kind of sucks.
Yeah, it hurts.
So
it hurts.
It hurts your ankles.
Yes, and you got to have some what for to you.
Yeah.
You can't just be like, all right. No, people are trying to hit you.
Yeah, you get, I
There's
didn't play full check, but, you get slapped in the shins enough, and, you do... collide. I was looking for a clean word, but you do collide a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, but your feet and your ankles, and your lower back from skating, hunching over.
It hurts.
You got to want to do it.
Exactly. And so, anyhow, man, to answer the question, I'm sure Corey's like, man, you guys can have this. I'm done. I've been beat up, and I don't really see that this is going to be something that I make my future in, and have a good day. So, no, I think he certainly would have played. But you got to remember, they lost Josh Ball. He did that to himself, but there's a kid that would have started for sure. And by the way, would have been a huge, huge upgrade to any tackle you had on this roster.
Are we going to get any clarity on that situation anytime soon? That would have been a good exit interview question for Willie is, what is the status of Josh Ball and the potential of him coming back here? Because whispers, man, they are what they are, but there were a lot of whispers that he may be considered for reinstatement.
Yeah, probably not a good look. Let's just say it. Just probably not going to play well for them. If they do that, I don't think it's a good look. Now, I'm very careful here because we've seen it go both ways, right? Now, I would really like to know specifically what happened. I need to know that. It makes a difference. It makes a difference. Because I'm also in favor of anybody in general paying the piper and getting another chance, depending on what you did or didn't do. And I'm not talking about accusations. I'm talking about what did you do? What do we know?
But a full vetting of what the facts are, of what we do know, like a rehashing of that would be helpful. I'm going to go back, I guess, and listen to our shows because I know we cited specifics.
Well, we were reading from the reports.
They weren't
good.
They were specific, too, which was I was like, wow. If you're trying to question somebody's motives, I mean, some of these things are quite specific, and they seem...
No, it didn't seem like a good thing.
Over the span of time that they occurred.
I need to go back and look at that, right? I need to know what kind of therapy the kid got. Is he on medication? I mean, what specifically happened? You ever lay his hands on a woman? Did he do that? Did he not? Did he threaten? It matters. You're right. Bearing of the facts. We're going to need to know that.
Yeah, because if he's one of the new names and the reports aren't good, then you got to question everything fundamentally about the opening press conference from then on about who we are and what we are as a program.
That wouldn't be good. That wouldn't be a good look. And I also don't think that that's something that any staff, this one or any other, would go into lightly. I mean, they know better. I mean, listen, just because, A, it's the right thing to do to make sure you understand all of the facts, but B, who are we kidding ourselves? We are more now culturally aware of these things, and it's not just something you sweep under the rug anymore, thankfully. I mean, this gets brought to light, any violence towards women, and as it should be. So we're going to, I wouldn't think that they would enter into that.
That would be interesting as an off-season development.
Now, if it's purely about the football, Tom, he is a huge upgrade to anybody we have at tackle currently. Just saying. Not saying, just saying.
If he got in a fight with a bouncer, I'd laugh, but
I'm not laughing. I know there's reason to laugh because I often infer that you got to do whatever you got to do to win games. Believe me, I don't believe that you have to employ or allow for guys to play that have done heinous things. I don't, and most of the stuff I say, even with all the other stuff, is tongue in cheek anyhow. So believe me, I don't think it's funny either. I'm just noting he is a better player at the position than anybody we currently have. Just I know you're about to chuckle at me again. I'm just saying. Oh, jeez. I can repeat myself. It wouldn't make a difference. Jeff Cameron Show, 97.9 ESPN Radio.
Hi, this is Peter Bond, owner of Jerry's Cigar Shop. Jerry's has been a local favorite for cigar enthusiasts for the last 25 years. We have the largest walk-in humidors in town, filled to the brim with an amazing cigar selection. Relax in one of our leather chairs and enjoy an ice-cold beer or a glass of wine with your cigar. Jerry's is a great place to watch sports on our big flat-screen TVs and offers a comfortable setting for lively conversation. Visit our original store on Scherer Road or our new second location on Cary Forest Parkway. We hope to see you soon.
Eat, sleep, fish. Mike's Marine Supply and Skeeter Boats want to get you out on the open water. They're your local Skeeter dealer, custom rigged with the Yamaha outboards. Stocked with a full line of Skeeter boats from the Bass to the Saltwater Bay Series, Skeeter has been recognized for 18 consecutive years as the leader in customer satisfaction for fiberglass outboard boats. Check in at Mike's Marine Supply for the spring specials starting soon. Located at 1296 Coastal Highway, Panacea, Florida, call Mike's Marine at 984-5637. Online at mikesmarinetallahassee.com.
With this job, having two hands won't cut it, which is why I thank the stars I have a third. Grainger. When my two hands are full, I fully rely on Grainger. They're America's #1 source for industrial-grade supplies. So, whether I'm fixing a furnace or fastening a faucet, Grainger hands me what I need when I need it, which makes me a pretty lucky guy. Because when it comes to needing an extra hand, Grainger's got your back. Call or click Grainger.com to see for yourself. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
FSU fans know where to get the best barbecue. Willie Jewell's Old School Barbecue, 5442 Thomasville Road. Old School Barbecue, cooked low and slow. Find out for yourself what all the buzz is about. And when it comes to tailgating, Willie Jewell's does it best. Get the barbecue tailgate special. Pork, brisket, chicken, ribs, turkey, and wings with all the fixins. Ready to make your tailgate the place to pregame. The football team has new blood, but when it comes to barbecue, it's old school. Willie Jewell's Old School Barbecue, 5442 Thomasville Road. Go Noles.
Just like football, when it comes to the court of law, you're going to need a solid defense. I'm Michael D. Blank, attorney with the Law Office of Jose Fernandez in Tallahassee. At the Law Office of Jose Fernandez, there is never an upfront fee, and if we don't recover, then you don't pay anything. Our team is dedicated to handling all types of accident, injury, negligence, malpractice, and wrongful death cases. If you're unable to come to us, we can come to you day or night. Call us now, 855-HOSE-305, for your free consultation today. The Law Office of Jose Fernandez. We don't get paid until you do. Offices, Tallahassee, Miami. JRFinjury.com. Go Noles.
Make this the coolest Christmas ever with Orca Coolers. Orca has something for everyone on your list. From American-made, lifetime guaranteed coolers that hold ice for up to 200 hours to stainless steel drinkware that will keep your holiday spirits ice cold. Orca has more color and design options than any other brand, including officially licensed NCAA, NFL, MLB, and NHL products. Shop OrcaCoolers.com from Black Friday through Cyber Monday to get the best deals of the season. Make every moment cool and give the gift that lasts a lifetime at OrcaCoolers.com.
From the notebook of James Naismith to the halls of the Donald L. Tucker Center, the game of basketball has always been a Tallahassee fan favorite. The Seminole basketball team welcomes you the opportunity to become a bench warmer. You never know when your number's getting called. Fans now have the opportunity to purchase a $175 lower-level season ticket and sit in a different seat every game. You could sit courtside as the Noles host Duke, Florida, Notre Dame, Miami, and Louisville. It's the best thing since sliced bread, and all for only $175. Purchase your tickets and become a bench warmer. Call 888-FSU-NOLE or visit Seminoles.com today.
Broadcasting live from the AmeriGas Propane Studios in the capital city of Tallahassee, this is the Jeff Cameron Show, brought to you by Cornerstone Tool and Fastener on 97.9 ESPN Radio.
Could never have too many of those after the season we just had. Seminole headlines forthcoming when this show concludes. If you're Well, I mean, I think we have a cathartic conversation for 2 hours. I do. I think it was helpful. Not unlike what I thought yesterday was. Some of you have emailed and thought it was a bit much. Some of you said not nearly enough, and I think that's the way it goes after a season like the one Florida State just had. I will say this, that as the days begin to go by here, I am very interested to see. Look, I'll be honest with you. I'm going to be looking at all the various sites that cover recruiting closely because I want to know how many offensive linemen they're bringing in. I do think a lot of the woes and a lot of the things we talk about at length get somewhat remedied just by being able to block, playing with the lead every now and again. I mean, a lot of these things that were negative were not all a lack of discipline and poor coaching. Some of them stem directly from personnel issues. And, in fact, a lot of them stemmed from personnel issues. And when you have that and the losses begin to mount, it affects other areas of your organization, other areas of your football team. And I think, again, when you look at some of those stats and how much you want to buy into Pro Football Focus's evaluation of play-to-play, snap-to-snap, game-to-game, quarter-to-quarter, all that stuff, that's up to you. I've got some issues with what they do with college, but I know that there is relevant information there too. It is astounding to arrive at the place that Florida State arrived at to start this year and then moving forward. It's unimaginable, literally unimaginable to see an offensive line be that devastated by injury repeatedly and then that poor at a place like Florida State where presumably evaluation and recruiting were going on for years.
What's it like for you to do a cathartic show on a Monday and then do it again on a Tuesday? You got to double down on the catharsis from all this losing.
Well, we actually the difference for the second show there with headlines is that there are three voices, and I play less of a role in that show a lot of times. I just steer it, try to. I mean, obviously, I give an opinion, so it's a little bit different. But I want to hear if I hear something or detect something either I agree or disagree with, to spark conversation. But from those two guys, we all cover. I mean, the beat all knows each other. We all know each other, and there are guys that we've known for many years, some whom we love, some whom we're indifferent about, some that we don't know all that well. But I'm always interested in anybody that covers this team and what they have to say. I may completely disagree with them. I may completely agree with them, and there may be nuance to all of that as well. But I'm interested in gaining different perspectives. You and I talk to each other every day, and we've formed this bond, and we're friends outside the show as well as on the show. But I know what your perspective is because we text each other. We talk all the time. I don't always do that with other people. And so I'm always interested to see, is there something that comes out of left field? Or is there something like, I hadn't thought about that?
Well, it's been an interesting ride this year. I mean, I was getting killed a month ago, 6 weeks ago for some of the things we're complaining about right now. Meanwhile, we were talking about also the offensive line. But it's just interesting. I think based upon wins and losses and what most recently happened, I think people pick and choose what they're angry about. Like for me, I knew after the Syracuse game, right, where you had a poor offensive line performance and health issues from Virginia Tech through the Syracuse game. I know, all right, this is going to be bad. So I know that this is going to be so bad that I can't really judge this offense for what it's going to be at max efficiency, right? It's not a fair picture.
Right.
But what can I judge instead? Because I can't be talking about and focusing on this mega problem week in and week out. You just can't do it for your own health.
Right, no.
We're doing the show 3 hours a day.
Every day, 5 days a week. Yeah, you can't beat up the same issues. Yeah.
So what details can I learn about this coach while this offense is a complete and utter mess? And some of the things that I was focusing on at that time were detail-oriented. And unfortunately, they did not improve between the middle of October and where we are at the end of the season. And I think for some, it reached a breaking point after, Notre Dame or last week.
Because I think more
you
about
could see the bookend of the season, and there's a lot of the same problems.
Yeah,
from
I think the
week
Florida
1 to
game
the end.
certainly brought it back to the surface because I thought they played really well against BC, and they fought hard, and they made some adjustments and did well, and they got themselves in a position to win a football game, right? Who knows if they laid it all on the line to the point where they didn't have anything left for that final game. It's hard for us to imagine. It certainly seemed like there might have been an element of that as well, physically. Like
defensively, I thought, that might have been.
Yeah. They got beat up, though, on both sides of the ball. They just got beat up, you can run right at our ends, and there's not, we don't have good linebackers, so those guys aren't always going to fit. And when that happens, you get the long run. And, it's interesting because the degree to which, and we'll move on from this because there's no reason to beat it into the ground, but it is still fresh, and it is a subject that we're all passionate about, and we're going to be watching very closely because nobody finds the result to be acceptable. Everybody can argue about how we arrived at that result, and there are, nuanced arguments there. That it's not all of this or all of that. It's not all on Willie. It's not all on Jimbo. It's not all on the players. It's not all, there's a lot of things to go around there.
Their position coaches, segment coaches, all that stuff.
Sure. There's a lot of stuff to assess. But one thing that is true as the year went on, especially early, and you brought up the Syracuse game, and that's a good place to start. As bad as the Virginia Tech game was, it was more the Syracuse game that we ended up having this conversation. And I don't know if it truly – it's funny. You were talking about the details, which didn't get better at the end, and that you were talking about those things weeks ago. And I said after that Syracuse game, and then, we had the same situation. Well, the Sanford game. Sanford game is where I go on the rant that's used on College Game Day. So all the way back in week 2, my grave concern became an offensive line the likes of which I'd never seen. I was watching that game so carefully against Sanford, and I remember thinking, oh, no. It is worse. I knew it was bad.
Yeah.
We cautioned it in the offseason. I held out hope it could be okay. New coach, all that, right? New offensive line coach, all
Health.
that. Health. Yeah. Saw that game and said, this offensive line doesn't allow you to win games. Now, I didn't know what we could do to mitigate that through scheme. What could we do? Maybe DeAndre would start to understand the offense better in time, like those kinds of things. But my grave fear was that line was worse than we imagined. And to be honest with you, and really taking the time to take a step back, not only was it worse than we imagined, it was it was the doom of this team. There was no chance to be sustained with that offensive line.
Right.
You had no opportunity. Even if you got all that stuff that we complained about yesterday right, you would have lost a lot of games. I mean, those games weren't competitive. So even if you don't false start, even if you don't have pre-snap penalties, you get killed by Clemson, you get killed by Notre Dame, you get killed by NC State. You just do.
Yeah. It's we have just one close loss this year. Was that it?
28-27. The loss to Miami is the only game that was close. Everything else we got blown out when we lost. So, yeah, no. And in retrospect, it's devastating, the Miami loss. It's not just the way you lost, but what that ended up representing.
Yeah, you'd still be playing.
It's the difference between the bowl game, and I don't know. One thing that you're going to hear on some of the headlines that's interesting, and I'll throw it to you because I'm kind of curious. I was torn on this. I think I still am. Ira said that, because I brought up the 15 practices they're not going to get now. And when you're in need of fixing a lot and getting experience for younger players and maybe even moving on, let's say, from some of the other guys, I'd like to have those 15 practices. I mean, that's the same as having a spring football. I'd like that. Well, here's what I thought. I thought, they could really use it. And he was saying, no, they need to be apart. That there's a lot of fracture and frustration, and they need some time away from each other.
That's interesting because, to bring this whole family together, this whole ESPN Tallahassee family. I was listening to Tom and KJ last night on the drive home. Mm-hmm. And KJ has been pounding the drum. You got to have those practices. And then by the end of it, I think he's in agreement with Ira saying, well, maybe Willie needs more time to assess the whole thing.
Right.
These couple of weeks could be good for him.
Yeah.
And then you'd be practicing with the players that you consider to be a problem anyway for longer. So are you just prolonging an issue?
And that's what I said. I said if it were going to work, it would have been that you exhaled and said, all right, we got the bowl streak intact, but
can't start James.
But yeah. Well, you can't start James, but what you could do is you could really emphasize for the game plan going into the bowl game the younger guys, those that you wouldn't be burning their shirt or those that have already burned their shirt, and just said, the guys in this bowl game that are going to get the vast majority of the reps are going to be guys that I'm really relying on next year. So you know what, Nooney, you're going to play, but the focal point of what we're doing here.
Yeah, we're going to feature 88 and 20.
We're going to feature 88 and 20 and the rest of those, right? So the guys that are going to be
Thompson could get some burn.
Exactly. The guys that are going to be a big, big part of the solution are going to be a big, big part of the game plan, and I'd rep the hell out of those guys going into this game. Still not going to fix your sorry-ass offensive line. It's still not,
Again, I think just revisiting talking points of the season as a whole, where we had disagreements where I think it was philosophically about what do you do in terms of trying to patchwork together for this year, and then how much are you trying to install for the future benefit of the program. But I think we all agree that the offensive line is the major reason. It's ground zero of all of your issues, and you can't get away from it. You can't get far enough away from it week in and week out. But the question was, all right, that doesn't mean that your special teams have to suck every week. That doesn't mean that you
right. That's
have to line up incorrectly and shoot yourself in the foot or turn the ball over, separate that, to not help your offensive lineman, maybe leaving somebody else to protect. Remember when we got so mad at Jimbo and Rick Trickett talking about how Chubb was a really good rush end and how they're going to do all these crazy things to him?
And they never chipped him.
And they never chipped him?
Yeah.
Things like that might have helped Juwan Williams if you're going to start him against the University of Florida. It's just there's a lot of detail messes where we all know the constant. And if we know the constant by the time the Syracuse game is over, when you're running long developing runs over and over and over again, and it's 2nd and 12 on every freaking drive, I mean, you can only talk about that so much, even if it is the biggest problem. So you got to focus on other parts of the organization and just learn who this guy is and who his staff members are.
Well, I think at the end of the day, I really do take solace in that Willie has fixed big problems in his coaching career. He has fixed big, big problems. I mean, unmitigated disasters.
And he was willing to adapt on the fly this year when he realized that they were in critical need of him in some other areas.
Well, and that's why I think he's going to hand over the reins to that offense to Walt Bell. I think it'll be more Walt Bell and less Willie. And it's not about, again, the play caller. It's about delegation so that you can oversee the operation, which is fractured, where you got problems there.
I think that's true, but if Walt is in charge of how we practice, then you need somebody to step in there, because the way we play on Saturday, the way we're organized on Saturday, whoever and Walt appeared to be the ops manager of that, at least in the open practices and the early portion of camp. If Willie is indeed bouncing between the practice fields and overseeing the whole operation, and then you're talking about on-the-ground responsibilities, somebody new needs to be there. Somebody's got to be there.
Well, that's what you also assess. That's what you do in this offseason. You're going through your organization and saying, where did we fail miserably? And ultimately, where did I fail miserably by not overseeing that, by allowing for that to continue? I really go back to what I said yesterday and to the emailer who said that, hey, look, it was negative, you weren't offering solutions. I did, actually. Yes, I was angry, and I still am to some extent, but the offering of solutions is this. I talked about a big picture that when corporations are going through difficult times and they bring in a new president or CEO, somebody to come in and right the ship, and there are great examples of this with huge organizations where, because they're such a huge organization, it's like shifting the direction of a massive oil tanker. You can't just whip around the corner. You got to foresee, and start to turn now.
Yeah.
All right. So what do? When they come into some massive organization like this, where entrenched are certain attitudes and ideas, and you're trying to change that culture change, right? You might identify 5 to 10 to 15 major problems within your organization. You cannot fix all of those immediately. You got to pick the 2 or 3 that are most pressing, that might cause the ruination of your corporation, right? We need to get this right so that all these other things can get fixed later. But what I'll do is I'll hyper-focus on these 2, 3, depends on how big the organization is, things. And what I'll allow for them to be is a representation of how we're going to do everything, because people will then follow. They'll see those changes. If you hyper-focus on getting special teams right, I'll use that as an example, because that would have been high on my list of things that were absolutely broken.
Yeah, hidden yards could help you when your offensive line sucks.
Your offensive line sucks, right?
Yeah,
so you can't start at your 10. You need to start repeatedly at the 25. Give yourself a fighting shot, right? Okay. So I would hyper-focus on a couple of things and say, we're going to get this right. And the people who are involved in that fix, special teams coach, players on special teams, all of that, they're going to behave a certain way because we've righted them. This is fixed. They will then be emblematic of the way we do other things, and people will see it. They'll take notice, and you allow them to shine. And then you go about the process of going from there to the next area of concern, whatever that might be. But you got to fix something. You can't kind of try to fix everything and then not solve anything. You got to fix something. And I think that was the mistake. Nothing really got fixed, and that was my complaint. The solution was, and I don't know. I'm not a CEO. I'm not paid $5 million a year to get this right and coach. But certainly I've watched enough football, played some football, been watching the way a lot of coaches do things. Seems to me those parallels in the successful organizations can be identified. And just to me, you got to have something you do, you can hang your hat on that you do really, really well and that you fixed.
Well,
in year one.
I think the approach made sense, like the logic of it, to take a broken team and build its spirit back up together.
I know why he did that. I don't disagree with that.
Think about David Kelly. I mean, that is, to me, the principal figure of that attempt because he was the voice of practice with the positive, re-encouraging things
I also think he's
say.
still going to be here, by the way. I just think he's going to be reassigned. And
he'll just do the director of ops thing, which is what he originally thought he was going to do.
What he wanted to do anyhow, right.
And he's really good at it. And he is personable. And that dude is compelling to sit down. If you sit down in a room and listen to him speak, you shut up and listen, man. He speaks from the heart. So he's going to be, I think, really good at that. But the problem is that despite his efforts and Willie's efforts to build everybody back up together after the Virginia Tech game, I think it was all for naught because you didn't see the results. We're a front-running team. We're a front-running culture, and we have to stop that. I don't know how, like you do. Like you don't. $5 million. Right, that's a big payday because that's a big problem, and you're being paid big money
to
bring people in, not just players but coaches to solve it. But we've got a front-running personality to us. Things go bad, we go bad.
It's been going on for years,
right?
Years, yeah. It's interesting. That's been brought up by countless announcing teams, right? They pointed out, they're like, well, this has been a problem for a long time here. You know, the offensive line thing was interesting, for example. Look, you can give or take Greg McElroy. I've worked with him on SiriusXM, and he is what he is. He's not wrong when he says about the offensive line, well, this has been a problem for a long time. I mean, other than the national championship team, this is something we've always recognized about Florida State. He's not wrong.
Yeah, the back half of 2014 was good. That's about it. I thought the 2010 line was all right. They had Stork and Rodney Hudson in retrospect.
But it really bothers you to think that you can identify, specifically because it was the exception.
Yeah.
The 2 to 3 times in the last 10 to 15 years that they blocked it up.
Sure.
Exceptionally well and consistently. Now, there have been a few teams and occasions and games and things like that, but it's never been, like to me, I bring it up all the time because it's also a team I watch closely, but Oklahoma's always good on the offensive line. Like that, they score a gazillion points partly because they're in the Big 12, but it's also because they run a really good offense with talented players and they have a huge offensive line that's really productive every year. Alabama's always got a good offensive line. Georgia seems to, since they got righted, have a good offensive line.
Georgia's the one you want to target the way they play right now because Oklahoma gives up 40 or 50 a game, and it doesn't matter if Stoops is their coordinator or anybody is.
Right.
But Georgia's approaching that area of balance where Alabama is. That's why they were out Alabama-ing Alabama in the title game until Tua came in.
Yeah, and that's the saddest part of everything because then Tua is the trump card. That kid's just too good. It's not just like he's a good quarterback for Alabama. He's the best quarterback in the country, not named Kyler Murray. Right? Like he's going to be good in the pros. That's when we were all doomed. You're like, oh, no, he's not just good like Alabama. No, he's good. This is a problem. I need him to take it on down the road.
Did you watch any of that coach's show last night? I didn't realize it was on, and I saw it in the guide. I said, oh, my God, they're doing one?
Watched every second.
You did?
I watched every second.
That poor man.
I thought he did a good job.
But you could see it.
He's broken a little bit in the sense that he's disappointed. I don't
he didn't want to be there.
God. Well, he wants to be on the road recruiting. He wants to be doing anything other than talking about a season that was so disappointing. I thought Willie was really good
when he was asked the question in the last segment about the Miami game. I'm going, what the hell are you doing?
Oh, man.
Why are you asking him about the Miami game? That was a good half. We were up 27-7 after the DJ punt return.
Yeah.
Dude.
Well, Gene brought that up, and I felt for Gene. Those coaches' shows are...
Well, they didn't have enough questions for the final segment. Well, Clearly, he was told, you got 6 more minutes, and he's like, oh, great. Appreciate you. Thanks for the heads up. We're out of questions? There are no more questions
No
for
more
Coach?
questions for questions that you can read.
Exactly.
I mean, that's your problem. Every coach's show, I've brought up the coach's show for years. All of them, they're all awful. A coach isn't going to really say anything. Not in that forum. It's brutal for the host because it's such a cheesy sort of deal anyhow. There's no real, I got to be careful here about how I say this, but there's no real integrity to those shows. I don't mean the people involved. I'm just saying.
You mean balance of conversation.
Yeah, there's no.
It's all pro.
Right, it has to be, right? That's the nature of those shows. They're useless. Unless you get drunk Steve Spurrier on there or something like that.
Or, the guy says, where's the loyalty?
Right. You get a moment like that where something can happen. It's a spark where you're like, oh, hey, something's being said here. How about that? But, I mean, it's just...
I still am so impressed. That's a year later now. When that guy was starting to ask his question, you grabbed my arm. Not when he got to the point, not when his tone changed. The first 2 or 3 words.
I knew it. I could sense it. I went, oh, here it comes. I got away with that. I don't know why. I told you. I used to know back in the day with a caller. I'd take a caller. He could say 3 words would come out of his mouth. I'd look at Millar. I know where this is going.
Yeah.
Like, bam.
Yeah, I remember the first time that happened to me when I was working the board, and you knew it, and you got rid of it. I was like, what?
Yeah, and I told you. I was like that, dude.
And you knew it.
I knew where it was going.
I don't know that I do anything that well. Like anything. You've got a skill there. Maybe like judging lies around the green and what they're going to do to the golf ball. Maybe. But I don't know. Consistently, you can tell what's in somebody's heart when they're about to ask a question.
It's weird that way. Maybe 20 years of doing this will do that to you, where you can kind of sense, like, is this going to be a real conversation, or is this guy about to be an ass? Are we about to deal with a situation here? I don't like dealing with that. Nobody does. Yeah. I mean, you can, but you understand that if it's allowed to go on, where this could go. So I'm nipping stuff in the bud. We're done here.
Which is it's culture. Yeah.
That's
doesn't allow for any superfluous bullcrap.
Yeah. Coming up next, Seminole Headlines. Great work, Tom, for that hour. You were fantastic.
Hey, come on now.
Good job, you too, Matthew, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.